Hello, it's Thursday on the Wincers, which means you're here with the Crimson Angel 100. Now, I was going to talk about this week's episode, but I'm kind of on the fence about it. The only thing that sticks in my mind is Dark Brown Bell, and how it kind of reminds me of the Joker-Harley Quinn relationship. Not completely, but, it reminded me a little bit of it, how it has this twisted romance and how it's different because Joker and Harley Quinn, Joker's emotionally, physically abusive towards Harley Quinn, and she stays along. With this one, he's going to be physically, emotionally abusive towards everyone around him in order to keep Lacey. So it's similar, but it's not the exact same thing, but it reminded me of it a little bit. Now, for this week's installment of Once Upon a Style, I was actually going to focus on one of the main characters in this episode, but I decided to focus on a character that was suggested by a viewer a few weeks ago that I didn't have a chance to do, so this time I will have a chance to do it. And that is of the Sheriff Graham, aka the Huntsman. Now, keep in mind, I just drew this yesterday, so it's a little rough, but here is... Okay, here is the Huntsman slash Sheriff Graham. Now, first off, let's start with him as the Huntsman, because he was a Huntsman first. Now, as the Huntsman right here, there he is. As the Huntsman, he wears some furs, like here and there, and, just random cloth drapery, and he doesn't wear, like, he's not a traditional huntsman in the sense that he hunts for sport, and he doesn't hunt for, like, because he's the bloodlust. He does it strictly for survival. He does it strictly for, the survival of its meat and the survival of the warmth of its fur. And if he had the choice, he wouldn't kill at all. He wouldn't kill animals because, he feels animals are pure of heart because he was raised by wolves and they're pure of heart, unlike humans, because his parents abandoned him into the forest. Side note, I kind of wonder who his parents were. Like, if they are other characters in another fairy tale, or if they're just, they're not going to go into it at all. But that's kind of something I wonder, because with this show, you never know. Anyway, he's an archer, unlike some huntsman or sort, he doesn't wield a sword, he wields his bow and arrow. And I find, that was very interesting. It's a little bit different. Now as the sheriff, he has a very simplistic, like, outdoorsy quality, like, with a scruffy beard and everything. This is very outdoorsy, almost everyman quality, almost, Now, one thing you have to notice is that his color palette is in the browns. It's not in the gray. It's not in the blacks. It doesn't have. He has very little to no color. The only color he has as Sheriff Graham is his tie, and even then, it's like a very, very muted color. It's not a bright color. And the same thing with Huntsman. I think it's the only color he has is like on his belt, and it's the same thing. Very muted, very, very, very muted. But I find it interesting that they put him in a very woodsy, neutral color, because they wanted to ground the fact that he is a neutral character. He's neither good nor evil. He is someone who basically wants to just be left alone, just do his job and just be left alone, and I kind of feel bad for this character in a sense, but one thing I have to say is that his personality, from Huntsman to Sheriff, in my opinion, his is probably the only one from that I noticed. His personality's pretty much stayed completely intact. He just didn't have his memories. Unlike, Snow White or Mary Margaret or Charming and David, their personalities were pretty much stripped away and created a new persona completely, and also with Belle and Lacey. they completely like were the polar opposite. But since he was pretty much Regina's, well, boy toy, um, she pretty much kept his personality intact. He was pretty much the same person. He just didn't have any of his, forest memories. So I actually kind of like the fact that he was pretty much the same character, essentially, at the core of who he is, that neutral, you know, outdoorsy everyman quality. Now, one thing I have to say is that he had this, like, I guess you could say brother wolf, that the imagery of the wolf was just so, like, stunning, because it was like this silver wolf that had one black eye, black as night, he described, and one eye red as blood. And I thought that was very interesting, because that was almost a little bit of foreshadowing, because black and red, of course, are the colors that are always used to describe Snow White. Hair black as night, lips red as blood. So I thought that was very interesting that he had this companion wolf that would always be like almost his brother in a sense, that or maybe his parent, I don't know. And that would kind of give a clue to his fate, and that his destiny would intertwine with Snow White in some way. I thought that was a little bit interesting that it kind of went into that. And that I just thought that was very interesting. And I think I pretty much covered everything with the Huntsman and Sheriff Graham. Now, please, please, write your suggestions and your comments below of who you would like to see in next week's installment of Once Upon a Style. Now, I have heard suggestions of, Snow White / Mary Margaret, and I have no objections to that. She's one of my favorite characters. I just have no idea which one I should do, because she's had a lot of costumes on the show, as Mary Margaret and as, Snow White. So, I wouldn't know which one to choose. So if you want it to be Snow White / Mary Margaret, write your suggestions in the comments below of what costume you want her to represent her storybook version, and what you want her to represent her fairy tale version. Because it's like, I wouldn't know where to go with that one. But if you don't want it to be Snow White, write your comments below what other characters would you like me to do in this segment. Anything's up for grabs, even ones that I already drawn in previous videos, because that was just theories and fan art based on the episode. This is, completely separate segment. So, any characters up for grabs, any character whatsoever. So, I think that's pretty much it, and, see you next week.